Hello, my name is Trinity Tag, and this is my presentation for Art 210, and I decided to title it How Chevreul and Seurat Impacted the Use of Color. And when I say this, I mean the use of color within art, yes, but also within science and technology, and it sort of talks about how those intertwine. Color theory is a foundational tool to any visual artist. To understand how your art will be perceived based on the colors you use is something anyone wanting to advance in the arts longs to fully understand. Luckily, color is not truly a mystery. From a young age, many students are taught the color wheel. They are taught to understand primary, secondary, complementary, and color mixing. Something students are not often taught is the full depth of Chevreul's theory. While we do learn about complementary colors, a concept intertwined in his theory, there is often not education on how color can seem to change depending on what other colors they are near. Michael Eugene Chevreul was a chemist in the mid to late 1800s, while he worked as the director of dyes at the, sorry about the pronunciation, Atelier des Teintures at the Manufacture Royale des Gobelins in Paris. This was the department of dyeing techniques supplied tapestry works and all dyed textile materials to the French authorities. His responsibility was to improve the quality of the tapestry that was produced. His research while working there created an understanding of how the proximity of color changes how the eye perceives them. Chevreul created his own color wheel, which included 72 colors and a complete range of hues and their different values. What began Chevreul's discoveries was something he noticed while trying to mix strings. He observed how when two brightly colored strings were sewn together, they began to look like a new, more dull color. After some experimenting, Chevreul found that this was not a chemical reaction but an optical illusion. This led to the interest in the effects of adjacent colors. He found using the wheel he created, colors he called complementary made each other pop, while non-complementary colors diminished each other. His theory expanded into a handful of understandings. Simultaneous contrast, how colors are perceived differently based on what colors are around them. My example of this is on the top right of the screen. I like to use that picture with the two purples in the middle with that pink and that blue. Despite the purples being the exact same, the colors that are around them really changes what you see. Complementary shift, which is how colors will take from their neighbor when perceived, and my example of this is similar to what Chevreul saw when he tried to sew the different colored twines together. But in this example, the blue within the yellow looks different than the blue within the red strings, but it's actually the same blue throughout. And tonal contrast, which is how light and dark colors seem darker or lighter when next to each other. So this example of the blues is each section is the same color throughout the section, but next to the dark versus the light, it looks like they have some sort of fade into a different colored blue, when in fact, they're the same blues. Chevreul's main contribution was turning color into something predictable and scientific, and while his work was not for painters, it became a widely used tool by many of them. One artist who showed a deep interest in Chevreul's theories was George Seurat. It is not known for sure if he read all of Chevreul's book on color contrast, but it is known that he copied down paragraphs from the book, and he also read from other authors who often reference Chevreul's studies. Using Chevreul's observations that two colors can create one new color when viewed at a distance, Seurat used the science of optics to create a visual language that he would call chromoluminarism. Seurat preferred the term divisionism or chromoluminarism for his art, but the term pointillism was the phrase that caught on. While Impressionist art before him was often built on feeling and quick fleeting moments, Seurat's work was all about rules and was something calculated. He took the idea of capturing a moment in time, and instead of feeling it, he turned it into a formula. One of Seurat's most well-known pieces is a Sunday on the island of La Grande Jatte. This piece is known as one of the leading examples of the pointillism and the neo-impressionist movement. Seurat believed that by using divisionism, when you step back, the colors would appear brighter. This is a perfect example of simultaneous contrast. Even from further back, Chevreul's theory is evident throughout the piece. The red and orange clothing sits against the green grass and blue water. Also, the way the lighting in the painting is calculated and built by the relationship of colors. Bathers at Asnières shows a similar scene of people by the water, but this time it is boys from the working class. For this piece, Seurat used small brushstrokes and an early version of his later more developed optic mixing. This piece of work was made before he had fully developed his idea of divisionism. You can see even in his earlier work the use of contrasting colors at a distance was already at work. You can even see the red used amongst the grass, causing the green to stand out even more. Parade des Cercles was Seurat's first picture depicting a scene at night. The only light source in the picture are artificial street lights and light coming from inside. It shows a circus sideshow and a line of people waiting to get tickets from the box office. The painting shows the lighting through tonal contrast. Seurat's careful planning of color placement shows how each person is softly lit by the light around them, but if you zoom in on the most shaded people, you can see the bright strokes of paint that were used throughout the piece, shaded only by having darker colors around them. Another piece of Seurat's work that showed an understanding of contrasting colors is Le Cercle. Much of this painting is yellow and orange, but the shadows are all created with blue. The curtain specifically is a good example of lighting being shown through the contrasting colors, which in turn causes the painting to stand out more. There are also very few main colors used throughout, so the dark orangish red really pops, especially against the blue shadows forming around the orange. The channel of grave lines was one of Seurat's last pieces. You can see just how developed his system had become with just how much light the painting gives off. Seurat even painted a narrow border of darker dots around the piece to show just how light the port seems to be. At the bottom of the painting, what appears to be closest to us, you can see the use of colors next to each other and how they appear all blue from further away. In contrast, the top of the painting utilizes a lot of white space to show the sky is bright. One artist who looked to Seurat's scientific technique was Paul Signac. The painting The Papal Palace, Avignon, shows an attempt to follow what Seurat was developing through small strokes and color theory. You can clearly see use of contrasting colors to make things pop, though Signac's work appears to follow less closely with an attempt to make the coloring reflect reality. We can see green in the sky and purple in the water, color Seurat would also use in these situations, but they would not be seen as clearly from far away. Another piece of work from Signac that shows the same use of Seurat's techniques is In the Time of Harmony. If you look at the skin of the people in the painting, you will quickly notice that it is made up of contrasting blues and orange. A clear attempt to make the orange pop, while the blue also serves as a way to show shadow. These two artists are often attributed to the start of the neoclassical movement and would become the inspiration for many artists who used similar techniques. One of these artists was Theo van Rijsselberg. His piece, The Green Dress, again used simultaneous contrast to have colors appear brighter as you step back. The green dress itself is littered with red dots on and all around it. This use of contrasting colors makes the green in the dress pop against the blue and oranges, creating a similar effect in the background. Another artist who followed these techniques was George Lehmann. His work, Beach at Heist, is similar to Seurat's Parade des Cercles, where there is heavy shading evident by having the same colors among the light and dark areas, using tonal contrast to make them appear different and shaded with the work. During the Neo-Impression movement, these advancements in understanding of color would not only be used in pointillist work. Even in art with completely different styles, the use of color can clearly be seen shifting. Van Gogh's Starry Night has oranges and yellows against the blue of the sky, and browns in the green trees, colors that when you step back you don't see as clearly. This is simultaneous contrast being used differently but for a similar effect. Throughout all of this art, it is clear that the Neo-Impressionist movement shifted from the feelings and moments that Impressionist art aimed to take to a more exact and scientific approach. This exploration into the science of color and how colors interact with each other was important not only to the art world, but to us as a whole. It can't go without being said in this digital age that the scientific approach to color and painting that came from those like Seurat would eventually lead to how screens are able to show a full range of color through only RGB. The connection between art and science shown from ideas of those like Chevreul and Seurat is still used years after the Neo-Impressionist movement. These artist innovations extend far beyond their time, continuing to shape how we use color in the modern world. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Every source I used is listed right here on this page. Yeah, thank you so much.